So for us, and like I said, it's same problems and it's a different look. So for small colleges, and especially small college athletics, it's always about enrollment. It's always about philanthropic giving and revenue generation. And it's always about how we're leveraging ourselves institutionally. So I mentioned we were already looking at the cliff to 2025. And I think that we're now looking at an acceleration, whether it's an acceleration of some schools moving towards, not being around anymore. We've already seen some of our schools in AIA, Division III, Division II decide that the best way to navigate this from a budget standpoint is to eliminate athletics. I think we all know that potentially more of that is coming. We're all now going to compete for a smaller pool of potential students. That's smaller than it already was, and it's probably going to look different for a lot of us in terms of that paradigm shift, whether that's people looking for, we had been accommodating in the last about 6 years, I think, towards this idea of how do we recruit Gen Z and why this new generation looks at higher education and what they want out of their college experience differently than anybody else. And I think that, this is going to shift again now, and whether that's from an affordability standpoint, whether that's a shift in what people are looking for in majors, whether that's everybody staying close to home, whether that's more kids deciding that, online learning works for them, and why are they, looking at that ROI and thinking, well, what am I getting for my dollar, and where am I going to go to do that? I think that we're already in that space, and we've been looking at that a little bit, but now we're in a position where we really have to identify who those new pools are. Is that figuring out that we are a tier up? If you're a mid-tier academic school, are you now going to get more of those reach kids who had other options and want to stay close to home? Are we looking at higher discount rates? Whatever that looks like, we're kind of already navigating that shift for ourselves, and we're used to figuring out the enrollment perspective, especially as small colleges use athletics. And I think that now higher ed in general is going to be looking at that again. I think philanthropically, we're all trying to raise money. We're all fundraisers in athletics. And now we're hitting a point where there's going to be less people to give. They're going to give less money, and their affinities are going to change. Are they still going to stay with us? Are we going to have to shift how we look at the use of our dollars? I call, our fundraising perspective here, I kind of call those gaps the margin of excellence. So we look at what's important and what our priorities are from an operating budget standpoint, and then what are the things that are going to move the needle most for us, and we consider those addressing the margin of excellence. And that's right now where we kind of direct our philanthropic dollars. But, if we drop in enrollment and our operating budgets drop, are we going to have to shift where those priorities land? Or are we going to have to shift the purpose of our philanthropic, revenue generation? Are we going to lose corporate sponsors? Are we going to lose ticket sales? Are we going to lose merchandising? And I think the ways that a lot of times big colleges and Power Fives talk about the concept of branding and marketing and revenue generation and how much it matters for them, and we tend in small college athletics to think that it's not the same for us. In my mind, it's even more important, right? Those dollars are far more impactful for us. Those relationships are far more impactful for us. And so every dollar we generate or every donor we lose really moves the needle on a much bigger scale for us because we're operating at such a smaller level. The last part of that is an institutional shift. There are so many small colleges using athletics for a variety of things, whether that's, I call it heads in beds, whether that's just from a student experience, whether that's from branding and marketing and philanthropy and athletics development. I think the ways that potentially we create value for our institutions, and more specifically, the ways that institutions are going to leverage athletics moving forward. Maybe, you don't have JV teams and your institution is going to ask you to hold JV teams and bring in another 100 kids. Maybe it's that, you didn't have fundraising benchmarks and now they're going to ask you to be way more proactive in that. I think that being able to anticipate the ways that we can create value around how institutions leverage our departments is going to be really important for kind of who comes out of this on top and who's still struggling in 6 months.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to get more great sports branding videos from Hartwell Studio Works, hit the subscribe button on the right of your screen. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.